In this video, we're going to take a look at question number 12 on the January 2017 Algebra 1 Common Core Regents, which is what is the minimum value of the function y equals the absolute value of x plus 3 all minus 2. And there are a few values, a few ways that we can find this minimum value. First of all, we need to recognize that the minimum value of the function is the minimum value of f of x or the minimum value of y, not the minimum value of x. There's nothing at all that's preventing me from putting any x value I want into here. I could put negative 1 million. I just get a really, really obscenely large number if I did that. So there's a couple of ways that we could do this, and the first is actually to use the calculator. So if we take a look at, let me shrink this calculator down to size here. If we take a look at the y equals feature, we can actually graph this function. And to do that, we could go to Math, Numbers, and ABS is the first option. Now, you may have the updated software in your calculator. It will actually show the vertical line. That's actually even nicer, but the idea is exactly the same. So ABS x plus 3 and then minus 2. And again, you may have just vertical line x plus 3, close the parentheses, it'll close the vertical line, minus 2. So let's graph that. And we can see that the minimum value is right here. So we can try to trace that, or we can actually use the minimum feature in the calculator. So if you hit second trace, we have calc. What we do here is we have the minimum feature. The left bound means you want to get to the left, your cursor to the left of the value. So we see that the minimum value is here somewhere. I definitely went left of that. And if you want to take a little extra caution here, you can go further left. If we hit enter, now it's going to ask us for the right bound. That means we want to be to the right of it. The guess is pretty irrelevant on these simple-ish questions. If you get into really, really complex math, you really want to get the guess closer. Or if you have multiple possible minimum values, you want to bring your guess closer. But in this case, it's pretty obviously just one value. And the calculator is spitting out negative 3.0001 and negative 1.999999. That's really negative 3, negative 2. The way the calculator works is somewhat complex, so it will actually feature some approximations. But a lot of the time, if you get a number that's really, really close to a whole number, something like negative 3.000001 or negative 1.99999, it really is just negative 3, negative 2, and the problem is just in a calculator approximation. Now, if we recall here, of course, we're looking for the minimum y value, so it would be negative 2. There is another way to think about this question, which is to say that, okay, the absolute value can never be negative. But it can be 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0. Well, if we make x negative 3, then what we get here is negative 3 plus 3, which is 0, and that's why I picked negative 3. Had this been like plus 2, it would have been negative 2. Had this been minus 7, I would have picked positive 7. My objective is to get that part to 0. I want to make that as small as possible. And minus 2, and what we get is 0, the absolute value of 0 minus 2, which is just 0 minus 2, which is negative 2. And realize that since the absolute value can never be negative, no matter what x value I put in, I'm always going to get a number that's negative 2 or higher. The negative 2 can only be obtained by getting the inside of the absolute value to be 0. So that's that. Again, I would say that either way that you do this problem is relatively equivalent in difficulty, but if you really want to see it visually, you can certainly put it into your calculator and just look at the graphed function and find the minimum value that way. And again, you don't even really have to use the minimum feature. You can just trace this and find that it's going to get you pretty dang close to what you're looking for here. So if you just do a trace, I mean, it's not perfect, but you can see that this is really close to negative 2, and then we start going back up. Like, there's no way that the answer is negative 3. We're not dropping a full point from there to there. So that's that. Nice and easy question, whether you do it with the calculator or by hand.